If you would go to the next slide, I want to welcome everyone to the special education workshop today. And next slide, please. Definitely thank you to all of our interpreters. It is lovely to start our meeting with many languages and with accessibility features. We appreciate all the interpreters for putting their contact information into the chat, and want to thank you all. If you weren't able to get those, we're putting this up here one more time just to make sure folks have the information they need. So next slide, please.
Kathy, would you like to open the closed caption for the presentation? Let's see, there should be.
Can you tell me how to do that?
Yeah.
If you go in the bottom left corner, if you put your arrow down there, you might see some little dots that show up. It has like a little kind of like others. It looks like you're right. When you're doing it kind of, it all of a sudden will show up in like a gray thing, and it does not say interpretation. I think it just says like Google slide on. Go back the other way.
No,
You're in the right place. So go down. No, thank you for letting us know. And it's a good lesson for all of us on how to turn on interpretation, because it sure helps me pay attention, and I'm not hard of hearing, but it's helpful. So what you're seeing now on your screen is a bit.ly link and a QR code. So we would like you to take a moment to sign in to the fair today. This helps us know how many people we've reached, and it provides a way for us to connect with you so we can share important updates and resources with you as we're enrolling. The links have also been plugged into the chat today. So to take a moment and put this in, I'll give you a second to get this updated. To use the QR code, you can use your phone or iPad camera, hover over the code, which is those kind of like scratchy lines, and a link should appear on your screen, and that will take you to the sign-in form. So give folks a moment to do that. Okay, and we're going to move to the next slide, please. So we'd like to start our presentation today with our mission statement. So every day in SFUSD, we provide each and every student the quality instruction and equitable support required to thrive in the 21st century. Next slide, please. So today, we have run through our welcome, gotten folks access, and in their home languages, we are providing support. And now we're going to talk a little bit about special education and the programs that we provide here in SFUSD. And then we really want to have space to answer your questions about our programs. And then we will, of course, share some resources. Next slide, please. This is one of our mantras in special education. It is not a place, it is a service that is provided to children. Next slide, please. And where we really see this take hold is that all of our school sites promote inclusive practices, and we seek the least restrictive environment in making individual special education decisions. And that least restrictive environment is an important core belief in special education. It's something we call LRE, and we follow every time we're thinking about what we're providing for children. Next slide, please. Another important tenet in special education is something called a free appropriate public education, or we refer to it as FAPE. So that means that we are providing special education services to children between the ages of 3 and 22. These services are provided free of charge to eligible students. They're available in preschool, elementary, middle, high school, and adult transition programs. And we always share our parent rights and procedural safeguards with each and every family, and we have those available and posted on our website. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Matt Lavoie, and he's going to provide some detailed information about our services.
Thank you, Julia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Lavoie. I am one of the special education supervisors in SFUSD for special education. I think I said that. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go over our special education services that we offer to our students who are eligible. We have our, I'm sorry, my screen is blocked a little bit. We have our early childhood special education services for age 0 through 5, our general education with supports for students in transitional kindergarten through grade 12, related services for transitional kindergarten students through grades 12, resource specialist services, transitional kindergarten through 12, our learning center for kindergarten through grade 5, and then our special day classes, our SDC separate class settings for transitional kindergarten through grade 12. And finally, our Access Adult Transition Program for students who are 18 through 22 who did not receive a high school diploma and are working toward a certificate of completion. For more information, there is a link at the bottom of this slide to our district website that can give you information on all of the schools and what programs they all have at each school site when you're making your decision. We're going to start with our early childhood special education services for students age 0 through 5. Our early start services, we provide family-centered services to families and their children ages birth to 36 months of age who reside in San Francisco and have solely low incidence disabilities. Those include hearing, vision, or severe orthopedic impairment, or a combination thereof. Individualized program plans are developed to meet the needs of each child and family through the individualized family service plan process. Speech and language services. Speech and language therapy is provided to eligible preschool children on a walk-in basis at an SFUSD campus. Itinerant early childhood special education services. Early childhood special education teachers provide a continuum of services to students in their natural environment. So they're pushing into classrooms, which can include consultation to family and staff, as well as direct support to the child. The goal of these services is to ensure goal progress, access to curriculum and their typical peers, and maintaining the child's current environment. Then we have integrated general education classes. Early childhood special education teachers monitor and provide support with IEP goals in a general education setting with typically developing peers. And these programs are 4 hours, 5 days a week. And our special education day class. Early childhood special education teachers provide intensive instruction with a low teacher to student ratio to support goal progress and peer engagement. This program is also 4 hours for 5 days a week. And now we're going to move on to our related services. They're available at every transitional kindergarten through grade 12 school and provide specific and specialized instructional supports that increase access to core curriculum and grade level peers. And these include speech and language, audiological services, augmentative and alternative communication and assistive technology, orientation and mobility, vision services, adaptive physical education, occupational therapy, physical therapy, assistive technology, counseling and mental health services, vocational education and career development. Now our access program. Our access program is our adult transition program for students aged 18 to 22. The students are on track for a certificate of completion at the end of their 12th grade. So they do their 4 years of high school, and then if they did not receive their diploma, they're eligible for a certificate of completion and can enter the adult transition program called Access. Programming includes post-secondary education, employment, and independent living skills. Individual student needs, strengths, preference, and interests inform the IEP services, related services, community experiences, employment development, and other post-school adult living objectives. Resource specialist services. The majority of our students' day is spent in the general education classroom for resource. Students' primary teacher is the general education classroom teacher. Special education credentialed teachers assigned as case manager to provide specialized academic instruction for these students. All schools in SFUSD can provide resource specialist services. All schools in SFUSD can provide related services, which include speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, etc., as it is written in their IEP. Special day class SDC separate class settings. The majority of these students' day is spent in a separate class out of general education. The special education teacher is the student's primary teacher and case manager, and also provides specialized academic instruction. Now, our SDC programs are located at specific school sites. So you will need to use the SFUSD school search to find the schools that have the SDC program that you are looking for. And there are various types of classes. We have mild, moderate SDC, moderate to severe SDC, deaf, hard of hearing SDC programs, our access adult programs, SOAR, are also our autism focused SDCs. So there are many. So you do need to go to the SFUSD school search to find the schools that have the SDC program that you need, that your child needs. Special day classes are mixed grades. They're generally K through 2, then they are 3 through 5, those are the elementary grades, then 6 through 8 for middle school, 9 through 12 for high school, and our access adult students who are age 18 to 22. Okay, so just to kind of look at the two of them, our resource specialists, the majority of the day is in general education. They're assigned a general education credentialed teacher and a special education case manager, and they are available at all SFUSD schools. I'm sorry, one of our interpreters raised their hand. Do I need to slow down?
No, I will go ahead and add her. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Related services are available at all schools. So those are our speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, etc. And remember, it's as written in their IEP. Now, our special day classes, the majority of the day is in special education classrooms. They're assigned a special education classroom teacher who also services as their case manager. They're located at specific sites, so you will need to look at the enrollment guide, and you can also contact a principal to visit the school if you want to go for a tour. We have many different types of SDCs. We have our mild, moderate, our mod severe, deaf, hard of hearing, access, SOAR, and not listed here is our autism focus SDCs as well. And remember that they are mixed grades. So you can be in kindergarten, but also be in a classroom with a first or second grader as well. So K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12. And not listed here is our adult program, ages 18 to 22. And I'm going to hand it over to Monica.
Hi, good afternoon all. My name's Monica Knuckles, and I work for the Educational Placement Center at our district office at 555 Franklin. I'm one of the special education counselors. So I'm just going to go over very quickly with you the special education enrollment. Of course, it's very important to know our key dates for the application process. You can start applying starting today. It's very important to know that the last day to submit the application is February 4th for the main round, which you then will have an assignment. You'll know an assignment by March. There are a few ways that you can apply. It would be preferably online, and you can also apply via email. You can download a PDF application and submit it to our office, and I will put the links on the chat, and also in person. The office is open from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, and you need to make sure that when you do apply that we have all the documents needed for enrollment, and we will have counselors available for you at the number that you see there. That is the district office. One of the counselors will help you, and it's just very important that you make sure that application is submitted by the deadline of February 4th, 2022.
Okay, so I will take this next one. And so as your student is transitioning from an elementary to a middle school, or a middle school to a high school, it's really important that you have a transition meeting. And at these meetings, both teams come together. So let's say if you're going from elementary to middle school, your elementary school special ed team and your middle school special ed team would come together in an IEP meeting. And they would talk about how your child's services will be provided in this new setting, right? And so most times you will get an email and you'll be contacted by your current special education teacher to set up that meeting. However, if you don't have that opportunity and you are not contacted, feel free to reach out and touch base with your case manager to request an IEP meeting. Most transition IEPs are held in the spring or within 30 days of the new school year. So those are important meetings, and you can talk to your case manager about how those are going to be set up at any time. Next slide, please. Okay, and just to reiterate, it is super important to get the application in on time. And so that deadline is February 4th, 2022. And next slide, please. All right, so we want to open up to questions. We've had a lot of questions in the chat. So if folks have questions, I see we have someone who has raised their hand, I think. Is that Jason?
Yes, if you've raised your hand, I will give you a unmute button and you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Go ahead, Jason.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not clear on the relationship between the regular school and the special educational school. Are they two separate things, or does the special education program integrate into the regular school in terms of the day-to-day operation?
It all depends on your child's IEP, but the majority of our students, 75% or more than, of students who receive special education services are in the general education classroom with their peers. So the majority of students spend the day in their first grade class along with everyone else in their first grade class, and then they might get support in the class, or they might be pulled out for a little one-on-one work.
And
Does
this
that answer
include
the question?
I'm sorry, and this includes the all the grades level, including my kids, will be he's 5 years old now, and he will be going to transitional kindergarten or kindergarten. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And so we have programs that we were talking about, the special day classes. And those children are in a separate class. And then they are integrated into general education classes. So it would be a discussion you would have with our enrollment team and with your child's IEP team. Have you had an IEP meeting yet?
Yes, in fact, he's has been going to the SDC class for the last almost a year now.
Yep. And so the IEP team would talk about, okay, is he going to stay in an SDC class as we move to kindergarten? And what would that look like? How much time would he be in a general education class? How much time does he need to be in the special day class? And that would be individualized for your child.
Okay.
Julia, there is a question in the chat. Do transition meetings happen for a private preschool to SFUSD elementary school?
From a private preschool to an SFUSD elementary school?
Yes.
That's the question.
Does the child, and I don't know who's asking, maybe they can raise their hand. It would depend on if and Matt, correct me if I'm off base here, but if the student has an IEP and they're moving over to a public school, then you would have a transition IEP meeting. If they don't have an IEP yet, then you would need to set up that meeting.
Yes, that is correct. We want to have transitions from students coming from their private school coming into the public school setting, and most private schools are very happy to do so.
And that is also, we have another question in the Q&A I see. It's important to have an IEP done before the application deadline. It is super helpful to have an IEP to already have an IEP before the application deadline, but that's not always the case, and it's not going to slow down your application. There is another question in the chat or in the Q&A, and this one is for you, Matt. I was hoping you could speak about high school options for special education. Our son is 13 biologically and about 3 years old developmentally. Could you say how many students, even roughly, are in moderate to severe sections of special day classes in high school?
Yes, I can answer that. Thank you for your question. Our programs for students with more significant disabilities, we cap them at a 10. Goal is 10 students, no more than 10. Sometimes it does go over, but very rarely. Some programs are a little bit less depending on the makeup of the student population in the programs. And so what you would do is look at the enrollment guide and see where those programs are around the district. I want to say there were 9 different high school, eight or nine different high schools. So they're spread throughout the city. And what we do is, because the population it's not a huge population overall, when we look at the overall student population, we actually are able to monitor these students, and your middle school case manager can help guide you to high school case managers. They all know each other. And so I would start there, talk to your current teacher and ask them for advice. What do you suggest? Who can I talk to? And you can always reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat if anyone is interested in learning more about high school or our access programs. I hope that answers your question.
We also have a question from a raised hand from Susan Hamilton. Susan, you can unmute yourself to ask your question.
Yes, I believe the question may have been answered, but the child will be applying for kindergarten, currently in a private preschool, receives speech therapy services. So my question was about how to obtain an IEP and if it was necessary to obtain one prior to submitting the kindergarten application?
I can take a stab at this one. If the private school is in San Francisco, I'm assuming the speech services are being provided by an SFUSD speech therapist. Is that
No,
accurate?
they're actually not. They're through the medical provider.
Okay.
So-
Go ahead, Julia. I'm a little stumped now.
Sorry. So Susan, what you would need to do is apply for an assessment for an IEP. And I will add a link to the chat on how you get that process started. So you would want to get that started. And if you can get it started and running before kindergarten and before the application, great, but it takes 60 days for an assessment.
Okay.
So it's a pretty long process. If you haven't had that, or you're in process, or it's not going yet, it does not delay your enrollment to the district. You can still move forward with the enrollment. They can both processes run independently of each other.
Great, thank you. That helps.
All right. I see a question in the Q&A. Let's see. And one was, do you have advice about asking for tours? And I am guessing this is tours for our high school SDC programs. And I think Matt answered, you want to check with your case manager. I would definitely request, if you're looking for an SDC program, a special day class, that is a really, really important thing to check in with your case manager and have lots of conversations with them about what you think might be right for your child. And then also, if you're looking for a student who maybe isn't in a special day class, but receives a lot of specialized services, it's also a good idea to check in with school principals. And some schools do have information on their websites about the special education programs they provide.
Can I add?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Julia. Also, many schools offer tours for families, general tours. If you need a specialized tour because of your student circumstances and they need that more personal approach and touch, we can talk to the school directly, to the school that you want to go visit and tour, and see if we can set that up for you.
Yeah, definitely reach out to folks within the different departments, and your case manager is a great starting point. Are there questions? I know folks have been watching the chat for us. Just want to check and see if we have questions in the chat, Carla or Danielle.
Yes, yes, you
Go
do.
ahead, Danielle.
The last question that came in, there is a couple. Where would I find information about the difference between the mod severe special day class and the mod severe special day class with an autism focus?
Good question. We have those on the website. Matt, do you think you can off the cuff talk about the difference?
Yeah, I can. So when we're thinking of our students on the autism spectrum, we're really thinking of specific teaching strategies and environmental strategies used to act for in order for them to be successful at accessing their educational environment and their education. We've learned over the years that sometimes when students are in environments with cross-categorical disabilities and they're on the autism spectrum, they tend to struggle because of the noise in the classroom or the movement of other students within the classroom, or just the setup of the classroom can be something that triggers them and makes them unsuccessful. So for our autism focus SDCs, we really do focus on minimizing distractions, keeping things very focused, using communication tools that are appropriate for the student population in the program. Not that we don't do things like that in our other SDCs, but we have learned over the years that specific student population requires a more strategic approach than our other student populations with other disabilities. I hope that answers your question. But as far as having something published, I don't know that I can get that to you right now. We must have something somewhere, Julia. I just don't know that I can access it.
We have some definitions of all the different programs on our website, but we have many, many very specialized programs. So we don't have every single classroom defined because we are constantly adjusting them to meet student needs. So again, you could reach out to us, reach out to our amazing special education enrollment counselors at EPC, and folks are more than willing to happy to talk people through those. I see a question in the Q&A that says, what age is dyslexia normally diagnosed and what is the process for that? One of the things that's happening in SFUSD around dyslexia is we have a ton of supports. We were able to provide dyslexia interventions virtually during COVID, which was really exciting. And dyslexia is recognized as part of the speech language disorder category in special education. And so if you think that might be something that is going on with your child, then that would be requesting a special education assessment so that the school could look at what's going on and what is the best way to support your child's needs, either in special education or in the general education classroom. There is no typical age, but they definitely, the goal of folks these days, right, is not what it was when maybe I was in school and folks didn't find out till middle school. We really work in our elementary schools to identify any trouble with learning early on. The earlier the better that we can look at those. So we have lots of assessments we do for children, for all children. Hopefully that answers your question.
There's another question in regards to adult transition access. Matt, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Can you see the question, Matt, or you want me to read it?
You want me to read it? It says, can you talk about adult transition, please? What happens after 4 years of high school? As we would like our son to be able to one day perhaps work helping someone at a restaurant or a drugstore or something like that. He does not have very many words, but he has learned so much at SFUSD.
Thank you. That's exactly what our adult programs are designed to do, to get our students who cannot receive a diploma due to their disability because they can't access the high school curriculum in that way. They would go to an Access Adult program to learn vocational skills, to learn communication skills, to learn those tasks necessary to be independent. We teach them to ride Muni independently, to communicate independently, and to perform jobs independently. And all of our access programs are connected with partners throughout the city. They're either employment partners at restaurants, stores, museums, Muni itself, you name it. They are connected. City College, they are also connected through City College. And so it really depends on your individual students' goals for their future, for when they leave the school district after the age of 22. That is the driving force for your students' program. What are their goals? What do they need to be doing and working on to get there so that when we move them along after 22, they are ready to be received either by another adult agency or move on into life and independently, depending on whatever their life goal is.
We have one question in Chinese in chat from Xiaohua Wang. Is there any support provided for speech disabilities for ages 0 to 5?
It says, is there any support for language impairment for 0 to 5 years old?
For 0 through 5, I believe so, yes. I'm sorry, I don't work with the early childhood, so I'm not familiar with all the specifics, but maybe Julia, you can help answer this
Yeah.
one.
They do, we absolutely do provide speech services for children 0 to 5. We have a very strong speech program, especially for 3 to 5-year-olds. And so you would need to apply for that program. And I'm gonna put a link in the chat that links you to the application for early childhood special education programs and our assessment packet.
Julia, maybe this will help answer this question. In chat, my daughter was born at the end of August and will only be 30 months at the end of February. To transfer to SFUSD for assessment, already deadline for application, what should I do?
For early ed students, and I'm thinking this might be, we have something where our 0 to 3 students transfer over from like a Golden Gate Regional Center where they're receiving services into our SFUSD programs. And so I would recommend reaching out to our early childhood special education department because they are the experts and they can help walk you through what needs to happen on that deadline. So I am gonna share that information in the chat because those kind of detailed things, I wouldn't want anyone to miss out on an opportunity.
Julia, there's another question in the chat that sort of relates to that one. Do transition meetings happen for a private preschool to SFUSD elementary school?
I think that's the one we answered earlier.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's always a good question, and that we took us a while to get the answer right. So I think if you are in a private preschool and you're already receiving special education services, then you would have a meeting with your preschool team and your new elementary school team. If you're in a private preschool and you don't have an IEP yet, then you need to apply. And I think I may have put the wrong apply link in. That's how to enroll in schools, but I'll put a link into our early childhood programs and you can get that information there.
We have a hand raised from Patricia Hernandez. Patricia, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
I am so sorry. I got kicked out, so I'm not sure if this question was answered. My son will be transitioning into 6th grade, so middle school, and he has auditory processing disorder. What middle schools are assisting with that disorder?
You want me to take that, Matt?
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with the middle school programs and where they're located.
I would say you have 2 options within that. So, you know, one of the good and the challenging things with special education is we have a lot of programs at different schools, right? So all of our schools, if your child is in a related service, is in general education classroom, we will have that at every school. If for auditory processing, they would be able to get those supports at any school. If your child needs more specific supports or is part of like a deaf and hard of hearing program, that is only at a couple of schools. And I can look on School Finder. I feel like, and actually
one of them's Presidio. Presidio.
Yeah. So Presidio has an amazing program and an amazing community. But it depends on the needs of your child and what program they're in.
Right, yeah. He's currently, thank goodness, in a, he's at Cesar Chavez, which they do definitely have deaf and hard of hearing. So he's had amazing services. So I definitely still want to continue that. So it was, we got cut off a little bit. I thought I heard Presidio.
Yes.
It's Presidio.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
They have an amazing community there.
And just so you know, our programs for that community, for middle school is Presidio, then for high school is the Academy. Just so you can plan forward.
Perfect. And it's just Academy?
The Academy. It's at the Ruth Asawa Soda campus. They share a campus on
Okay.
top of the hill.
Now I'm in Silver Terrace. Does that make a difference?
No.
No. Okay, perfect.
Nope. If a student requires a program, we will get them to that program.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I see a question in the Q&A. Are there any new high schools for special education this coming year?
There are no new high schools.
And any new high school programs coming up this year or this next fall?
There are no new high school programs. Of course, we have to look at enrollment to see whether or not we need to increase or decrease any. But that's all that we would be doing. We're not opening any new schools, and we're not opening any new type of program. We may be opening new sections of programs at schools, but not any new types of programs.
I see that there's well, actually, are there any questions in the chat that we haven't answered?
I think we're up to date right now on questions in the chat, but I'll keep my eye on it.
Okay, phew. I have questions in the Q&A, and if I'm missing folks who've raised their hand, please let me know. It's tricky keeping track of all of these. All right, so I have a question about how do we find out about other adult agencies? And this is a great question for all of us to know. And actually, I will pass to Matt because this is something that happens in our high school programs.
Yeah, thank you. If you're talking about a student who is getting a diploma, we would typically refer students to the Department of Rehab, and in some cases, Golden Gate Regional Center. We always tell students to take their IEP, if they're going to college, to the Office of Students with Disabilities at their college that they're going to be going to. But the Department of Rehab is our main go-to to then help connect students who get a diploma to then look at other adult agencies that can support them. Now, if your student is an access student in our adult program, 18 to 22, your case manager is well versed in how to connect students with adult agencies, all of them. That's what they do. And so if your student is going into access, you're going to rely on them to be your resource to get you into those adult agencies or connected with those adult agencies.
And just a quick question in the chat, which is, what is an access student? And our access students are 18 to 22-year-olds, or our adult students who are in this transition program. And there's another question.
It says, how many teachers are there for special ed? And please send them a big thank you.
Oh, well, I'm sure they will appreciate the thank you, because boy, teachers are working hard right now and for the last 18 plus whatever months. Oh my goodness, I do not know. I think it's a lot. Matt, do you know?
I don't know the number offhand. I remember going to a professional development where we pulled every single special ed teacher. And I believe at that time, that was about 4 years ago, there were about 500 teachers in the room.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe even a little bit low. Yeah, sorry, I don't have, there are a lot. There are special ed teachers at every level. So we have them all the way from preschool, kindergarten through 12th grade, and all the way up to 18 to 22-year-olds. So there are lots and lots of them. All right, any more questions as we wrap up here? Okay, someone else sharing they had a great experience at SFUSD. Awesome.
Julia?
Yeah.
I just would like to take a moment and share that if anybody else has any other questions or interest, the CAC is also available. So I don't know if someone can put our contact in there, but we're here to also help and support students who need special education.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle.
And again, if there's any questions in regards to enrollment, you can always call the Educational Placement Center.
All right. And there was a question in the chat. I saw it in the chat and the Q&A about start times. What start times are better for teachers and things like that. And I do not have any answers on that. I think that might be another department that maybe could answer that. And so I want to go to the next slide, please. Sorry, we don't have more information. And we want to share some resources and contacts with all of you so you can keep getting information. So next slide, please. All right, so this is information to contact the SFUSD special education team. We also have a special education services website. You can get a lot of information there. And I apologize profoundly because I thought I also had added on here our CAC, which is the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education. You can find their website at cacspedsf.com. And the CAC is a volunteer group, advisory group, run by parents of students with disabilities, so parents and guardians of students with disabilities. They're an amazing resource, and they hold meetings on the 4th Thursday of every month. So that is a great place to learn about special education programs. For the individual who's asking about dyslexia, this month's meeting topic, because October is dyslexia awareness, is actually on dyslexia. That is the whole topic of this month's CAC meeting. So that's a great place to get more information. Another wonderful resource, and this is a free resource in our community, is Support for Families of Children with Disabilities. They provide language interpretation and resources for parents of children who have disabilities, and they start from same thing, from 0 all the way up to adult services. So that is an amazing group. You can call their warm line or their website. Next slide, please. When we talk about reaching out to schools and connecting, these are our special education supervisors. Each one of these oversees the schools listed below here. This is their contact information. We also have this information available on our website. Next slide, please. This is our elementary school team. These are our middle, high school, non-public school, and our supervisors for the school psychologists. So these are other really wonderful resources to connect with these folks. And next slide, please. We also have program administrators. So if you're in a private school and you have a question about how your child might get an assessment and what happens for students who are in private or parochial schools, Michelle Bijou would be your contact. For questions about that access transition, those 18 to 22-year-olds, that would be Cara Chanella. And then we have folks as well, I'd like to point out, like Francine DeMarco, who works with those speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy related services, as well as Esther Adamas, who works with our early childhood team. And lastly, we really work to resolve disputes as easily and with the least amount of tension and as possible. So we use alternative dispute resolution. Adriana Aro is our contact there. Next slide, please. So that is it for us today. Thank you very much.
Julia?
Yeah.
People are asking if there will be a way to review this, if the recording is gonna be somewhere they can access, and the information that we've been giving. Can you let people know that?
Yes, this recording and the slides will also be translated, and we will post this on the Enrollment Fair website and email to folks next week. So yeah, you will be able to see this again when you need them. Okay, well, we do have to end the session. There's another workshop right after this. So thank you all so much. Thank you, families. Thank you, presenters. Thank you, interpreters, for your time. And we're going to go ahead and close out this session now.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.